Hi, and welcome back to the British Accent Podcast. I'm Emily.
And I'm Nick. We're so glad you're here. Today, we're talking about something a little different, not just about grammar or pronunciation, but something deeper.
Have you ever had a feeling you couldn't quite explain in English? Or maybe there was something you wanted to say, but the exact words didn't seem to exist.
That moment, that gap, where you pause and search and wait, that's what this episode is about. Not having the words can feel frustrating, even scary. But it can also teach you something powerful: patience.
Yes. Because when you're learning a language, silence isn't just empty. It's a space where growth happens. It's where you learn to observe more closely, to listen more carefully, to be okay with not knowing for now.
And sometimes, not having a word doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're still becoming. And every learner, even native speakers, has those moments.
We'll talk today about those invisible moments, the pauses, the hesitations, and why they're not weaknesses at all. They are part of the journey. They are part of becoming fluent not just in English, but in yourself.
Let's start with this idea: language is not just about communication. It's about identity. The words you know shape how you see the world. So when you're learning English and you realize you don't have the right word for something, maybe a complex feeling, a childhood memory, or an inner emotion, you're not just facing a vocabulary gap. You're stepping into a new way of thinking.
Exactly. And those moments when you can't find the word, when you hesitate, when you pause, those aren't just frustrating. They are moments that invite you to slow down, to reflect. They ask you to be patient with yourself, to trust that clarity will come, eventually.
In many ways, learning a new language is learning to sit with discomfort. It's learning to accept that silence isn't failure. Silence is space. And in that space, your brain is doing incredible things, building connections, recalling old memories, trying new ways to express something that may not even exist in English yet.
There are so many words in one language that don't have a direct translation in another. Like the Japanese word natsukashii, which means a gentle nostalgia for something from the past. Or the German word Fernweh, a longing for a place you've never been. English doesn't have perfect equivalents for those. But as an English learner, you start to notice these gaps, and that's where your patience comes in.
And maybe you've been in this situation: you're trying to explain something in English, but you feel stuck. The emotion is strong. The idea is clear in your heart. But the words aren't there yet. It's tempting to give up or switch to your native language. But if you stay with that discomfort, if you try anyway, that's where growth happens.
One of the most important things to remember is this: not having the right words doesn't mean you don't understand. It doesn't mean you're not smart enough, or fluent enough, or good enough. It just means you're still becoming. And becoming is not instant. It takes time, and it requires you to be kind to yourself in those quiet spaces.
Yes, and here's something powerful: your brain is already doing more than you realize. Just because you can't say the word doesn't mean you don't feel it, or understand it. And that's a step toward fluency too. Even native speakers sometimes search for the right word. You're not behind. You're just in the process.
And the beauty of learning English, or any language, is that over time, you will find new ways to express things. Maybe you won't find the perfect word right away, but you'll learn how to describe what you mean. You'll create your own voice in English. And that voice will be rich, not because it has every word, but because it carries your effort, your emotions, your patience.
Think about it like this: language isn't just a tool to explain things. It's also a mirror. It reflects how you see yourself and others. When you hit those wordless moments, you're not just building English skills. You're building emotional strength.
Yes, and patience is the foundation of that strength. It's the quiet force that helps you keep going even when it's hard. Even when your mouth can't keep up with your thoughts. Even when your heart knows what it wants to say, but your vocabulary can't quite follow yet.
That's where you grow. In the not knowing. In the waiting. In the moments where you pause, breathe, and try again. You don't need every word right now. What you need is the willingness to stay in the conversation, to stay in the language, and most importantly, to stay with yourself.
So if you ever feel like you're falling behind, just because you can't say something, remind yourself, the words you don't have yet are not empty spaces. They are spaces filled with possibility. They're a sign that you're reaching, expanding, becoming someone new.
And that's why we say, the words you don't have, they don't mean failure. They mean patience. They mean progress. They mean you're on your way.
And what's fascinating is how these wordless spaces often become the most meaningful ones. Because they invite creativity. When you don't have the perfect word, you start telling stories. You use gestures, metaphors, examples, and in doing so, you create connection. You turn a vocabulary gap into a human moment.
Right. You might say, it's like when you, or imagine this feeling, and suddenly, your listener understands. Not because you used the right word, but because you painted a picture with what you did have. That's powerful communication. That's what language is about.
We often think we need to sound perfect to be understood. But sometimes, being a little lost for words makes you more expressive. You don't fall back on automatic phrases, you reach for deeper meaning. You learn to be more intentional, more aware, more alive in your language.
And that's not just a skill for English. That's a life skill. Learning to sit with uncertainty, to wait without frustration, to speak even when the words feel out of reach, these are habits that will help you in every part of your life.
Also, when you slow down and become patient with your language, you actually listen more. You listen to others, you listen to yourself. And you start to notice things you didn't before, how people express sadness, how they describe joy, how they find comfort in certain words. You begin to observe the emotional texture of the language.
And over time, your patience gives you something incredible, perspective. You realize that maybe there's no single word in English for a feeling you have in your native language, but that doesn't mean English is less than. It just means it's different. It opens your mind to other ways of thinking.
It's true. Every language has its strengths. Some feelings are better expressed in English. Some are better in Japanese, or Arabic, or Spanish. And as you learn English, you begin to hold all those perspectives together, to understand that language is not a competition. It's a collection. A mosaic.
And when you see it that way, you stop being frustrated by the words you don't have. You become curious. You start to ask, how would someone say this in English? Is there another way to express this idea? What image could I use instead? And suddenly, you're not just learning English, you're playing with it.
That's the magic. You're not memorizing. You're creating. And creativity needs space. It needs time. It needs mistakes and silence and trying again. That's why patience isn't just a virtue here, it's a requirement. A gentle, steady requirement that gives you room to grow.
And as you keep growing, something changes. The words that once felt foreign become familiar. The ideas that once seemed impossible to explain slowly find form. One day, you'll look back and realize that the word you once couldn't say is now part of your everyday speech.
But even when that day comes, and it will come, you'll still have moments where you pause, where you search for the right word. And that's okay. That's not a sign of weakness. That's a sign that you're still exploring. Still becoming. Still alive in your language.
Because in the end, the words you don't have, they are not barriers. They are invitations. Invitations to keep going, to keep learning, and to keep discovering new ways to see, to feel, and to connect.
And the patience you build in those quiet, searching moments. That becomes your strength. Your foundation. You're proof that language learning isn't just about words. It's about who you become when the words aren't there, and you speak anyway.
And what's even more beautiful is how this patience you build with English begins to spill over into other areas of your life. You find yourself breathing through frustration instead of reacting. You start being more forgiving with yourself, not just when speaking English, but in everything. You're learning that growth doesn't happen all at once. It unfolds. It matures. It deepens.
Exactly. You're not just learning to describe the world, you're learning to experience it more mindfully. When you wait for the right word instead of rushing into the wrong one, you pause. And in that pause, something profound happens. You notice your thoughts more clearly. You hear your heart more gently. You become more in tune with what really matters.
That kind of presence is rare. And it's valuable. In a world that moves fast, that demands quick answers and perfect fluency, you are choosing something different. You are choosing understanding over speed. Meaning over perfection. Connection over performance.
And the more you make that choice, the more you see that it's not just about finding the English word. It's about finding yourself in the process. You begin to see how language shapes your identity. How it holds your memories. How it stretches your capacity to express compassion, curiosity, grief, joy.
And when you learn a new word that captures something you've always felt but never had a label for, it's like a little light turning on inside you. You realize, oh, someone else felt this too. Someone needed this word, just like me. And that reminds you, you're not alone on this journey.
Yes. You are part of a larger human story. A story of people across cultures, generations, and borders trying to say, this is how I feel. This is what I see. This is who I am. That's what language is for, not just survival, not just grammar drills, but the pure need to be understood.
So the next time you're stuck, searching for a word, and it doesn't come, just smile. Because that pause, that's where growth is happening. That's your mind expanding. That's your heart learning how to wait, how to listen, how to live in English even when the words aren't perfect yet.
And every time you keep going despite that discomfort, you're becoming stronger, not just in English, but as a human being. You're learning resilience. You're learning humility. You're learning how to trust the process, even when the results aren't immediate.
You don't need to rush. You don't need to know every word. You just need to show up, again and again, with patience, curiosity, and the belief that even the silence between your words is saying something beautiful.
Because it is.
And you know, the more you practice like that, with patience, with attention, with heart, the more your brain starts to trust you. It begins to say, okay, we don't need to panic. We can wait. We'll find a word, or we'll find another way to say it. That's when your communication becomes creative. Not just correct, but alive.
It's so true. We often think language learning is just about memorizing, about speed, about fluency. But honestly, some of the most meaningful conversations happen when people speak slowly, carefully, and with deep thought. When someone pauses and searches for the right word, that silence can feel more sincere than a perfectly fluent sentence.
That's something I wish more learners realized. That not knowing every word isn't a failure, it's an invitation. It invites you to describe things differently. Maybe you can't say bittersweet, but you can say happy and sad at the same time. Maybe you don't know the word nostalgia, but you can say I miss something I used to love. And that's not lesser, that's real. That's you, building meaning with the tools you have.
And when you do that, when you allow yourself to describe instead of translate, your brain starts learning in a new way. It's not trying to jump from your first language into English and back. It's learning to stay in English. To trust the picture. To trust the feeling. To grow inside the new language, not outside of it.
Exactly. And that's how you start thinking in English. not by forcing yourself to be fast or perfect, but by being fully present with what you're trying to express, even when the words are simple, even when the grammar's a little messy. The effort to connect is what matters most.
And here's the magic. When you stop translating, you also stop judging yourself so harshly. Because translation always has this pressure: is it right? Is it exact? But when you're just thinking in English, you're not comparing it to anything else. It's just your voice, in this new form.
It becomes your voice, not just borrowed phrases. You're no longer just repeating what you were taught, you're shaping the language to fit your ideas, your stories, your way of seeing the world. And that shift is powerful.
It's like your mind opens a door. And behind that door, there's not just grammar and vocabulary, there's a whole new way of feeling alive. A new way of noticing small details. A new way of appreciating silence, of listening to others, of observing the world around you.
And the truth is, you've already started. If you're here, listening, thinking, reflecting, then your brain is already learning to live in English. Maybe it's not fast yet. Maybe it's not smooth. But it's happening. Right now.
So the next time you find yourself stuck between languages, just breathe. Let the silence speak. Let the feeling stay. And remind yourself, this isn't a moment of failure. It's a moment of becoming.
Because learning English isn't just about gaining words. It's about discovering how deeply you can understand, express, and experience life, in a voice that's becoming more yours every day.
And if that voice still feels small, or uncertain, or slow, that's okay. Every fluent speaker you admire once stood where you are now, wondering if their words would ever feel natural. But they kept going, and so will you. Because language isn't just about saying things right, it's about staying present, being brave, and giving yourself permission to grow, even in silence.
So don't rush the process. Don't chase perfection. Instead, keep showing up with patience, with honesty, with curiosity. And little by little, the English you're building will stop being a subject you study, and start becoming a part of how you live, how you feel, how you connect with the world.
Thanks for spending this time with us today. We hope this episode helped you feel a little more patient with yourself and a little more inspired to keep learning, not just English, but new ways of thinking, of seeing, of being.
And remember, the words you don't have right now might be the very ones that lead you to something even deeper. You're not just learning a language, you're learning how to live in a new voice. And that's something truly worth waiting for.
We'll see you next time. Until then, be kind to yourself and keep going. You're doing better than you think.